Okay, fast forward or fast backward, whichever way you want to look at it. Here we are back to the original configuration with the stock 1960 master cylinder in place. Obviously the left side is your hydraulic clutch in this particular rig. The right side is the single reservoir master cylinder. So it's back in place. We're going to take that back off and then go through the steps to get back up to where the booster was at the beginning of this video. You got 3 bolts in here. You're going to take out 1, 2, and 3, and then remove these 2 lines. Once you do that, that whole booster will come straight off. Like magic, it's off. So there you can see what the firewall looks like without the master cylinder. And if you've ever done the brakes or changed out the boosters on a 63 up, you'll notice that obviously there's an extra hole in a different configuration altogether. So it's just not a straightforward installation, which CPP gives you this nice little adapter plate. It's very thick. It's already got the hole in it for your master cylinder, and they call this a template. But it stays mounted to the firewall from what I can read. So it goes back in the 3 bolt holes that you took out for your master cylinder. So we're going to put that back in place as per the instructions, and that's going to show you where you're supposed to drill your holes. Okay, the new CPP adapter plate or reinforcement plate, whatever you want to call it, is back in place. You can see the 3 bolts are in that were from your original master cylinder to put this plate back on place. So it's pretty much self-aligned. You can see the center hole for the brake shaft that goes through, or rod. Not really any adjustment. You can try to jiggle it around and stuff like that, but with the 3 holes, it self-aligns just the way it is. Now, these holes were in their template. They're not all in your firewall. Those are the ones you have to drill out with a 3/16. Excuse me, 3/8 bolt. 3/8 drill bit. Excuse me. Fits the hole for the bolts to go through. So once you get through, that's what your new brackets will go for your new plate. Now, per their instructions, it says to, you're leaving the plate, you pull this bolt off, and you mount this bracket in place, which is fine. Early in the video, you've seen where this bolt comes through. It's partially in the open solid area where the hole was for the clutch rod. So that's what we're going to make a little custom piece to go on the inside to fill that void so that we have even pressure when we tighten down on all 4 bolts all the way around through there. We'll get to that issue. Okay, so here's the bolts you get that you're supposed to put through your bracket, through the plate, which is on the firewall, and inside, and then put a nut and a washer on it, which length of this bolt is absolutely impossible. It doesn't even go through the 2 pieces of plate, let alone have any room to put a nut on it. So yes, they give you 4. Doesn't matter because you're not using them. Here's what you're actually going to need. Let's see the difference in length. Yes, they're grade 8. Anyway, so we're going to put these 4 on, put the brackets in. Actually, let me back up. We're going to put the 3 in. The one of them from earlier you've seen, we're going to have to take one of the nuts and we're actually going to slice maybe 1/3 of it off and then hold it in place and then thread the bolt through it as a filler with a washer on top of it so that we get even pressure on the inside steering bracket that's inside the rig there. So that's where we're at. We'll step forward now. Okay, before I forget, it does tell you in the instructions to remove this bolt and then insert your bracket, because obviously you're not going to get this bracket in place with that bolt there. So we're going to take that bolt out, we'll put this one on, and then we have to do the same thing on the other side. I believe this one has to come out too. We'll check for clearance, but that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, real quick before we get too far ahead, I did forget to mention, so when you first come in here and you look underneath, it's not going to look like this because we've taken a couple pieces out. One of them being your clutch rod and your brake rod. So I'm not sure which is which here, it doesn't matter. But anyways, you can see that where the hole was for the clutch, this was the original clutch one. Since we're going to automatic, we're not using this system anymore. But right up here this piece was on there. You got to take that off. That will get rid of your clutch rod. And then you can drive, you can see this, your clutch and brake both right on this piece right here. That goes through, which we're going to end up pulling this off too. I'm going to look and see if I can't get the automatic pedal, which is wider. It's not a necessity right now. We'll kind of play it by ear. But just wanted to let you know that in case you're looking underneath thinking yours looks a little different, that's what you got to do. Okay, here is our handy dandy little filler. It is cut in half now, as you can see, or 1/3, 2/3, however you want to do the math on it. And no, it's not the same threads. This bolt will slide right through it. It's just a filler to make up that 1/4 inch difference that we had. Now we're going to do the same thing with a washer on top. So I'm going to chuck that in a vise and go ahead and slice the same amount off of that, and then we'll put it back in the car and see how it fills in the void. Okay, there's our washer. And as we can see, they line up pretty darn good. Alright, so let's put them in the car and see how it looks. Okay, slight modification to our washer. The nut works perfectly. It fits up inside that slot, and it evens out the distance. The washer, however, the way I cut it, it was not enough material to get onto the steering wheel bracket and the nut at the same time and support both. So we recut this one and put that little tiny concave in it that actually fits right up against the side of the steering shaft perfectly. So we'll put that in, and then I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Okay, there it is in place. It slides right up against the side of that column, so it supports everything it needs to in there, and it's got even pressure all the way around. So once we go back out and finish bolting the brake booster and the brackets back on, we can kind of jiggle everything around and get everything tightened up, and then we'll go on to the brake pedal after that. Okay, we are back almost to the start of the video. We've got our brackets back in place now. The bolts are all up. They're just kind of snugged up. We still got some movement in there so that we can put the booster on. It says to take the boot from here, which is what we did the first time. I'll slide this off. It's got 2 side tabs that once you put it in this bracket, those little side tabs on each side will line up in here just to keep the boot straight for some reason. So slide the boot in, then we'll slide the booster on place, and then we'll put the nuts on the back there just to kind of get it in place before we adjust it and then get her secured up. Okay, we've got our power booster and dual master cylinder back on from CPP, and we're back at square one. Now the only thing is, there is some adjustment in this, so when you are tightening it up, try to make sure that your master cylinder is at least level, left to right. Might not make much difference depending on how you ride your vehicle height or whatever, but at least it's a good starting point. We'll get inside, get to the brake pedal has to be modified. We have to take that off and drill a new hole in it. It could probably be done in place, but I think we're going to go ahead and just take it off to do it, just to make things easier. And that'll be coming up here shortly. Okay, now we got our booster all tightened up. Everything is tightened up on this. And as you can see, it's probably just me moving. This is nice and tight. It's secure. It's now going to be a nice integrated part of the system here. And obviously, the safety bonuses are going to be huge. Next up, like I said, we'll do the brake pedal. And we'll start running some lines. The other parts we got over here, we got a whole cart full of parts. We got the McLaughlin's drop spindles, just brake conversion for 6-lug. I'm going to mask these off, get the bare metal painted black that needs to be painted on the spindles, the rotors, calipers. We'll just fog them with some silver. And we'll go from there. So we'll see how the systems work together.